Hello and welcome back to X-Plane 11. Thank you very much for joining me in this video, and today we're going to be continuing on with the review of this freeware, the Aerobask Robin DR401 CDI 155 aircraft, available on the X-Plane forums for free. This is a free bit of a kit, free aircraft, and it is really good. So in the last episode we had a look at the pre-flight, starting the engine, we did some taxiing. After engine start, had a look at the model, had a look at some of the texturing, just got a good feel for this aircraft, and also how to install the aircraft, so on and so forth. Today we're going to be continuing. We're going to take to the skies, do a little bit of a flight, nothing too fancy, nothing too major, but we are just going to fly around a little bit and see what we can do and see exactly what we can find. So make sure you stay tuned for the next, I'd say probably about half an hour, if that, for the rest of this review and then my final thoughts on this aircraft. Right, so continuing on, let's go through the before takeoff checklist. I'm not going to be using head tracking today. In fact, you know what I should do is I should probably go outside and do this. Just give a bit of a rotation around. I've found that this seems to help the frames just by rotating around a couple of times. It's kind of loud. It is kind of loud. I might bring the volume down a little bit afterwards. But anyway, parking brakes set, check. Canopy closed, check. Flight controls free and correct, check. Oh, when you do that, it's a very sudden movement. That's pretty impressive. Interestingly, for some reason the shadows seem a little bit odd on this aircraft. I'm not sure what's going on. I think something's gone a little bit... In fact, you know what? I think something may have gone a little bit awkward on my... No. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. Maybe it's just this single aircraft. Anyway, fuel selector done. Fuel quantity has been verified. It's kind of in there. It's kind of hard to see that. Fuel quantity, I've got half a tank. This is something I don't like. Again, I'm going to mention it. This wobbling. I know what the wobbling is for, but because it doesn't wobble everything, and it's only wobbling... Oops, didn't mean to do that. And it's only wobbling some things. It makes it look really weird. Really awkward it is. So maybe they need to fix that. Right, elevator trim set for takeoff. So we've got the elevator trim right here. I think we can set this for takeoff. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think that's takeoff trim. We'll find out if that's takeoff trim. Yeah, I think that is takeoff trim. We'll figure it out. Right. Let's see what else we've got to do. A FADEC self-check. So we discussed the FADEC a little bit to see how it works. Okay, so thrust lever is idle, which it is. FADEC test button needs to be pressed and held, and we should have two lights. Those two come on, and the RPM of the prop increase. Which it does. Fantastic. Okay. Thrust levers back to idle. Engine instrument voltmeter has been checked. Yeah, we've done that. Everything's good. Outside air temperature's fine. Lights are on. Fuel pump is on. Radios and avionics, we should probably set this up. We'll set this up whilst we're flying. Doesn't really matter at the moment. And I think that's pretty good. Now, takeoff roll. The flaps need to be in notch 1 position. So we've got some nice electric flaps. Then we need to do, it's going to be at full power. We're going to rotate at around 61 knots. We're going to try and climb at 68. And apparently it has a demonstrated crosswind capability of 22 knots. So we've got that. Probably not going to be able to do this takeoff as it wants us to do. Then best rate of climb, it says, is going to be 78 knots to 9,500 feet. And then 75 knots to 11,500 feet. So it's a very slow aircraft. Right. A climb at higher speed when best rate is not required will provide more forward visibility. Alright, so we're going to go for a high speed climb out, which would make sense. That would make sense. For cruising, maximum load 100%, which is maximum continuous power. Recommended 85% or less. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. Fantastic. Right, I think we're ready to go. And let's get a good feel for this aircraft. See what it is like. One of the craziest things I find about this aircraft already is the fact that it's a diesel engine, and you can really tell it's a diesel engine. Positive rate, flaps in. That's a wonderful takeoff. What's an easy aircraft to fly? That was genuinely a piece of cake. Right, so we're going to climb up to maybe 2,000 feet or something. For now, let's actually get this aircraft turning. It's always like to turn. Very easy aircraft to turn. Impressive. Initial thoughts, I am impressed. And it responds very, very well. It does respond remarkably well. Right. I think we can switch the fuel pump off now. What I'm going to say is it is very loud. There's a lot of noise, both from the engine and from the wind. Now I know that we can reduce the engine noise by doing this. There you go. Oh dear, now I've lost the engine noise completely. There we go. Now I think a more accurate engine noise is probably about there. But that wind noise is incredibly, incredibly loud. Alright, let's turn this way. Let's try a very steep turn. Let's see what the steep turns are like, the sharper turn. Actually pretty good. Actually pretty good. Rolls out really well. Once I get it trimmed into a nice condition, what we're going to do is we're going to do some stall tests. We're going to do some tests of maneuverability. Actually, I'll do some maneuverability tests now. It's very digital. One thing I will say about this aircraft is it feels more like a stunt aircraft in some sort of in some sort of sense. It feels like a stunt aircraft. And it's got a wooden airframe, you see. And you know what? Let me show you something. Oh, that's loud. You can actually see the wooden airframe on it. That is a ridiculously loud aircraft. Here's its exhaust as well. Okay. Right. Let's continue climbing. I think actually 3,000 feet is pretty good. Let's trim out at 3,000 feet. Bring that power back a little bit. Just a little bit. Maybe bring that RPM back as well. Something like that. Right, let's trim ourselves down nicely. Let's see what this aircraft's like on the trim. Trim wise, my hands are now off the controls. I do have a slight bit of, I still have this pull to the left, but my hands are off the controls in terms of elevator. So it's doing whatever it wants to do on the elevator. You see it's climbing a little bit now, but overall it's trimmed pretty well. As it slows down, okay. So it slows down, it's going to obviously reduce the, there you go, it's going to now start descending a little bit. as it increases speed. This is pretty well trimmed, and it's very easy. That was very easy to trim. So now what I'm going to try and do is let's try and get some stall practice done. That's a really important thing to do. So here we go, trying to stall the engine. I'm going to drop the power very suddenly because I want to show you something, and then go into a high angle of attack and try and stall this engine. The moment we drop the power, you can see the movement out to the right, and the nose dips. Right, but now we're going to do this. Very sudden stall, okay. Let it pick up speed. Let it pick up speed, come on. We're going to do it once again. Might end up in a spin. Let's try and you see, it doesn't have the power. That's something it doesn't have. Right, we might end up in a spin here. There's the shake. We've got a shake for an incipient. Aircraft doesn't spin. Doesn't spin. I do want to try and make it spin though. We'll try one more time. Okay, here we go, one more time. There's the spin. Very good. Okay, bring it up nicely. There we go. Smoothly out of that spin. Okay, so it does have a spin. The spin characteristics are a little bit odd on the aircraft. I have to admit that didn't feel completely natural. But that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Alright, let's get ourselves tell you what, let's get ourselves over to the ocean now. And then we'll switch on the autopilot and we'll have a look at the autopilot on this aircraft. But this aircraft is very easy to fly. Very, very easy to fly. It doesn't feel like it's an aircraft that wants to struggle. Let's put it that way. So I can go, there you go, that's maximum power once again. So I put it into maximum power, wants to pick up speed. It's not a fast aircraft, I will say that. It is not a fast aircraft. Autopilot engaged. Altitude hold engaged. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. We've got approach, nav, back course, flight director, which doesn't seem to be doing anything right now. Nose up, nose down, that's the trim controls, I am assuming. Is that part of the trim controls? No, those are the trim controls. Alright. Vertical speed. See what that does. How do I adjust that vertical speed? Nope, that's not what I meant to do. I can't really do much there. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to swap this over onto 0.9, 108.9. There we go. And get that in. Nope, that's what I meant to do. Press that. Swap that in. There we go. Fantastic. And that should have, in fact, that's actually got our glide back into Edinburgh ready for us. which is awesome. So that's for runway 24. Fantastic stuff. So we're going to fly in back into the airport, and we're going to see what this aircraft is like on landing. So stall characteristics pretty good, spin characteristics a little bit odd, noise very windy. Definitely sounds like a diesel engine, that's the other thing. So it's definitely got that diesel engine sound. So what we're looking at descent wise, electrical fuel pump on, flaps below 92 knots. Speed we want is 81 knots, although it says approach speed may be increased. Final approach speed is 65 knots, approach speed may be increased to 70 knots to improve maneuverability. This can increase the landing distance. We've got a huge runway, so it doesn't really matter to us. Right, is altitude not holding? Hold the altitude. That was interesting, it remained on trim for a long time. Heading hold. Turn to a heading of 3-3. There we go. Very good. Should we see what its localizer mode's like? Or approach mode? Let's see what its approach mode is like. So when we get close to this, we'll try and intercept the localizer and intercept an approach. Just for testing. Yeah, just for testing's sake. Everything else is pretty good. Let's have a look outside again. Excuse the loud noise. Very basic looking aircraft in that sense too. Right. Here we go. 270, turning to 270. And I think we've got approach mode activated. Yes, it's now in a full-on approach mode. Heading can now match the approach, which is 241, I think. Reduce power slightly. Props can go full forward. Mixture can go full forward. Power can start coming back. And I think it's actually lined itself up exactly as I would want it to. Alright, so now we're just going to slow the aircraft down. We'll take it manually soon. There it goes. Just fixing itself. It's now on the localizer. There you go, you can see it's lined itself up on the localizer fantastically. Switched itself into localizer mode. There you go. Glide slope has now been engaged too. There's our glide. Beautiful. 500 foot per minute rate of descent. The aircraft is doing everything itself. Let's start bringing that speed back to, let's go for 80 knots, I guess, 85 knots. There's the airport ahead of us. You can see how we're lined up very nicely. 4.5 nautical miles to go. There's our track, 241. As I said, heading I will set 241. Beautiful. And I like this system. Little green dot, very easy to see. Localizers, very easy to see. It's good. Definitely good. There's one stage of flaps. That should give us our 85 knots, which is there. I think once we get below 1,000 feet, or 1,500 feet, we will take control of the aircraft ourselves. Fuel pump can go on. Autopilot works really well. The aircraft is very nice, very well detailed too. I mean, if you just have a look around very quickly, you can see the detailing on the aircraft is very, very good. And don't forget, this is free. This is a free aircraft. And that's impressive for a free aircraft. Let's drop back power just ever so slightly. I think 1,500 will take it, and then I can do a little bit of, I'll do a little bit more maneuvering just before we land, just a little bit of wing shake. I just want to see what it's like. Which may of course upset our landing a little bit, but that's okay. These all work as well, just to show you guys. There you go. See that they all work. That one probably needs to be brighter than it was. Anyway, taking control ourselves. I have control. Checking the rudder. Basically giving this aircraft a little bit of a Dutch roll. There you go, a little bit of a Dutch roll. Still handles it well. Handles a Dutch roll well. I'm not going to obviously try a spiral roll. We tried a spin. Can't try a spiral roll now. So it's going to continue on our descent. We're almost at the end. So my final impressions on this. Well, apart from the bug with the shaking glare shield, the air and the fact that it's incredibly loud, the aircraft itself is very, very nice. Very nice to fly. Right, we probably should have this trimmed slightly lower. I didn't have the greatest trim. Right, let's really bring our final approach speed down. Here comes that final approach speed. We're going for 70 knots. Again, it's just really easy to fly this aircraft. I've never flown a Robin before. So to be able to fly one of these and really feel like they're doing a good job, and to really be able to understand this aircraft very quickly, very easily, that's saying something about the quality of this product. As I say, it's not too difficult at all to be landing. We're slightly low, but that's okay. Just slightly. Nothing too major. It is a light aircraft after all. We could land it anywhere, really. There we go. So 70 knots does improve the maneuvering of this aircraft. As it gets slower, it does become more sluggish, I can tell you that. It's definitely more sluggish. But it still feels pretty good. Maintaining that center line, and even pretty good on the actual PAPI indicators. Well, slightly low, but that's because we are coming up to the threshold. Let's see what this aircraft is now like to land. So once we land, we have to keep the nose up of the aircraft as we apply the brakes and bring the flaps in. That's at least that's what it says, I think. That's us down. Flaps up. Brakes on. So keep that nose up a little bit. There we go. And I think I understand why. I think I do understand why. Fuel pump can, I guess, go off. There we go. And is there a taxiway we can take? Progressively raise flaps to the takeoff position. Now it's landing. Oh, that's on the overshoot. Yeah, brake heavily, keeping nose up with the elevator. I think that's because when you're braking, it pitches down, it pitches forward so fast and so hard. It does cause issues. Now, what I am going to say is that this aircraft does have some sort of an effect on my frames. I have noticed this. So I have noticed an effect on my frames. So that's something to consider. Alright, where am I going to actually exit? There's a taxiway coming up. But aside from that, it's a really good aircraft. That glare shield problem, textures are fantastic. Flight, it did really feel good. Very easy to fly. Did feel a little bit digital. Admittedly, it's not my cup of tea. I prefer something that's a little bit more fluid. This felt a lot more electronic in many ways. So yeah, this did feel a lot more electronic. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually very, very good. I actually do think that this is definitely worth. I mean, it's free. It's free, and it's a really good product. So as a product like that, I think it's highly worth downloading and actually just installing, taking it out for a flight. It's I know that one of its competitors, the Diamond DR401, I think. And in all honesty, I probably prefer this to that Diamond DR401. I'm not a fan of Diamond aircraft. I think I like this Robin a little bit more. Admittedly, of all of the aircraft, I prefer ones like Pipers and Cessnas, but this Robin's pretty good. I think I prefer Pipers over Cessnas, Cessnas over this, and this over Diamond. So there we go. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to stick the aircraft here, just in the middle of nowhere. In fact, this looks like the fire station, so look, we'll just stop it right next to the fire station. There we go. Fully idle. And to shut this aircraft down, it seems quite easy. You just pull the parking brake. Oh, another thing to mention is that the FADEC doesn't seem to be fully functional. But all you do here is you pull the parking brake, make sure the flaps are fully down, like so. Make sure that your thrust levers are in idle, your avionics are off. There we go. So this apparently is a standby mode for the avionics when the battery is on. So that's your standby mode. There you go. That's off, and then engine master switch can go off, I guess. Hey, stop that. That can go off like that, and it just stops. You can see it just stops like that, and then battery goes off. Job done. And that is the end of my review for the Aerobask Robin 401 or DR401 155 CDI. It's a great little aircraft. It's actually very interesting. Very, very interesting. Feels good. It's freeware. You can't go wrong with it. You really can't go wrong. It's good for a little bit of IFR flying, a little bit of VFR flying. Nothing too high speed, of course. And it doesn't have the greatest speed of, but it does have pretty good climb performance. Stalls practice is pretty good for that. Spin felt a little bit odd. I will admit the spin felt a little bit odd, but the autopilot systems are plentiful. It's got great displays. It works really well. Everything's functional inside, and everything does really, really work. So you can definitely go give this aircraft a try. I do recommend it. I mean, it's free. What is there not to like about this aircraft when it's free? Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on X-Plane 11. Leave a comment in the comments box below letting me know what you think. And don't forget to support me on Patreon, www.patreon.com, or follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/ECGadget. You also can find me on social media, Twitter and what's the other one I'm on? Instagram, at ECGadgetLP. That's all from me, and I'll see you guys next time in Explain 11.